In this video, I've put together 20 of the most anticipated shooters that are set to shape the genre in the near future. I'll explain what makes each of these projects stand out, why they're worth keeping an eye on right now, and which of them could realistically become the next big hits. If you're into shooters and want to understand what lies ahead, let's break it all down together. Forest Reigns is a post-apocalyptic survival and action project set in a world where nature has violently reclaimed civilization, with a mutant forest overtaking major cities such as Paris and dangerous creatures roaming freely through the ruins. The game presents itself under the tagline, "Nature Strikes Back," and hints at a hostile environment where survival depends on adapting to the wilderness, managing resources, and fighting against both natural and unnatural threats. At the moment, information is extremely limited, as the existing website and teaser material resemble a concept landing page rather than a full reveal. There is currently no confirmed release date, no announced platforms, and no substantial gameplay showcase from official publishers or recognized outlets, leaving the project positioned as an intriguing but largely mysterious concept rather than a clearly defined upcoming release. Hell Let Loose Vietnam is a fully announced expansion of the Hell Let Loose franchise that shifts the series' hardcore tactical multiplayer combat into the Vietnam War era. Developed by Expression Games and published by Team 17, the game is a 50 vs 50 multiplayer first-person shooter built around immersion, large-scale teamwork, and historically inspired warfare. Players fight across vast jungle environments where dense vegetation directly impacts visibility, movement, and tactical decision-making, while authentic weapons and vehicles from the era reinforce the setting. US forces are able to pilot helicopters for troop transport and fire support, while North Vietnamese forces rely on extensive tunnel networks designed for ambushes and surprise attacks. Atomic Heart 2 is the official sequel to Atomic Heart, continuing its retro-futuristic action RPG shooter vision set in an alternate history defined by sci-fi dystopia, brutal combat, and bizarre robotic enemies. The story takes place after the events of the original game and its downloadable content, expanding the scope from a single facility to a global scale while exploring the deeper consequences, characters, and lore of its fractured universe. Developed and published by Mundfish, the sequel was formally revealed at Summer Game Fest 2025 with a trailer highlighting a broader world, enhanced role-playing systems, and greater freedom of exploration compared to the first game. Atomic Heart 2 remains a first-person experience with a strong focus on storytelling, expanded weapons and abilities, and a distinctive retro aesthetic powered by Unreal Engine 5.
Have a good hunt, Captain.
Witchfire is a dark fantasy first-person RPG shooter developed by the Polish indie studio The Astronauts, combining gritty gunplay with roguelite structure and Souls-like design sensibilities. Players assume the role of a cursed witch hunter, fighting through unforgiving realms filled with monsters, magic, and punishing combat encounters. The game has been available in early access, where it built strong momentum and surpassed over 500,000 sales, marking a significant achievement for an indie title in this genre. A major update titled The Reckoning expanded the combat system by introducing 4 unique melee weapons alongside new firearms, strengthening the balance between ranged and close-quarters combat. Den of Wolves is a cooperative heist-style first-person shooter from 10 Chambers, the studio behind Payday the Heist, Payday 2, and GTFO. The game places players in the roles of criminal operatives working in a dystopian future corporate hub known as Midway City, where rival megacorporations hire mercenary crews to carry out sabotage, espionage, theft, and assassination. Gameplay is session-based co-op, with dynamic missions that can seamlessly shift between careful stealth infiltration and intense firefights depending on player decisions and unfolding situations. Midway City is presented as a lawless innovation zone driven by corporate power, with cyberpunk aesthetics and techno-thriller themes shaping unpredictable scenarios where improvisation is often key to success.
Who gets into this line of work? It could be you.
Hang in there, we're almost ready. Showtime.
Keep moving!
Diving in 3, 2, 1.
High on Life 2 is the sequel to the wildly quirky and humor-driven first-person shooter High on Life, continuing its absurd sci-fi tone and the signature talking weapons known as Gatlians that defined the original game. The sequel keeps the core shooter gameplay intact while expanding the experience with larger hub areas and new traversal options, including skateboarding segments that are directly integrated into both combat and exploration. Dialogue remains a major focus, with your sentient weapons reacting to situations and offering constant commentary. And new dialogue choices add an extra layer of personality and comedy throughout the campaign, reinforcing the game's playful and irreverent approach to storytelling and action.
Yeah, humans are barely sentient. Scientists have done studies, and their brains are...
Industria 2 is a narrative-driven first-person shooter, and the sequel to the cult indie hit Industria, designed as a single-player survival horror and adventure experience that emphasizes atmosphere, storytelling, and tension. Players once again follow Nora, who is stranded in a parallel dimension dominated by a hostile artificial intelligence and biomechanical threats that define the world's eerie sci-fi tone. Gameplay blends immersive sim elements such as physics-based interactions, crafting systems, and a fully diegetic inventory with first-person combat and environmental exploration. Rather than focusing purely on action, the game leans heavily into mood, suspense, and narrative discovery.
A plan. Thanks for Here we use metal parts.
Beautiful Light is a tense tactical first-person extraction shooter that blends PvP, PvE, and horror-driven survival elements into a high-stakes multiplayer experience. Designed as a PvP-PvE game, it features 6 squads of 3 operators who enter a hostile zone with the goal of locating, securing, and extracting a mysterious artifact. Alongside enemy players, the environment itself is filled with monstrous anomalies, and the game introduces the unique ability for players to take on the role of these creatures to hunt opposing teams. The core gameplay loop follows classic extraction mechanics, where players gear up, complete objectives, and attempt to extract alive, knowing that death means losing everything they brought into the match. The game emphasizes immersion and tension through a diegetic military style, HUD, and heavy tactical decision-making, with each raid designed to feel dynamic and unpredictable as unique challenges emerge during every mission. Gallipoli is an upcoming World War I squad-based first-person shooter developed and published by Black Mill Games, serving as the 4th major entry in the WW1 game series following Verdun, Tannenberg, and Isonzo. This installment shifts focus to the Ottoman fronts, including the iconic Gallipoli Peninsula and the Mesopotamian campaigns, placing players in the brutal conditions of early 20th century warfare. Halo Campaign Evolved is a ground-up remake of Halo Combat Evolved, the iconic first-person shooter that launched the Halo franchise in 2001, rebuilt entirely using Unreal Engine 5. This project is not a simple remaster, but a complete reconstruction featuring modern visuals, enhanced controls, and updated cinematics that reintroduce the original story and world to a new generation. The game preserves the core narrative of Master Chief and Cortana battling the Covenant on the mysterious Halo ring while expanding the experience with new missions, additional weapons and vehicles, and gameplay refinements inspired by later entries in the series.
Keep going inside.
We can't proceed unless we can disable this installation's security system.
John Carpenter's Toxic Commando is an upcoming cooperative first-person shooter developed by Saber Interactive and published by Focus Entertainment, with legendary filmmaker John Carpenter contributing directly to the story and soundtrack. Set in the near future, the game's premise centers on a catastrophic experiment that attempts to tap into the Earth's core, and instead unleashes a horrific entity known as the Sludge God, transforming large parts of the world into toxic wastelands overrun by undead horrors. Players take on the role of the Toxic Commandos, a rough and ready squad of mercenaries tasked with pushing back these overwhelming threats. The game supports solo play with AI allies as well as 4-player online co-op, allowing teams to tear through massive enemy swarms using firearms, grenades, melee weapons, and even vehicles. Ferocious is a survival-focused first-person shooter adventure that is launched on Steam, placing players on a dangerous and unpredictable island filled with dinosaurs, hostile mercenaries, and deadly ecosystems. The game emphasizes intense encounters against both prehistoric predators and armed human enemies, creating constant pressure and unpredictability. Survival is built around scavenging resources, crafting weapons and gear, and learning to navigate and exploit the island's terrain in order to stay alive. Ferocious released on December 4th, 2025 on PC, developed by Omyag and published by tinyBuild. Player reception so far has been mixed, with reviews highlighting the blend of survival tension, exploration, and dinosaur-driven chaos as the game's most distinctive element within its first-person combat framework. Decadent is an upcoming story-driven first-person shooter rooted in Lovecraftian horror, atmospheric exploration, and dark narrative themes. Players step into the role of John Lorne, a World War I veteran turned occultist who is haunted by a mysterious parasite and driven by a desperate search for his lost son. The journey carries him through frozen tundras, sunless forests, and alien landscapes where ancient cosmic horrors lurk just beyond human comprehension. Gameplay combines visceral gunplay with exploration, occult tools, and unsettling anomalies known as the Weirds, places where reality itself twists and breaks its own rules. The experience places a strong emphasis on deep storytelling, moral tension, and surreal encounters, slowly unraveling horrifying secrets as players push deeper into hostile, frozen wastelands shaped by forces far older and darker than humanity.
This is not happening. What is this place? What the? Finally! Tenebris, Valedictum, Aeternum Mortis!
Highguard is an upcoming PvP raid-style hero shooter developed by Wildlight Entertainment, a new studio formed by veterans from Respawn, the team behind Titanfall and Apex Legends. The game was revealed as a surprise announcement at the Game Awards 2025 and quickly became one of the most talked about competitive shooters targeting early 2026. In Highguard, players join Warden crews, elite fighters defined by unique abilities, combat styles, and tactical roles, and compete in intense multiplayer raids focused on controlling powerful mystical objectives, such as the Shield Breaker. The gameplay blends fast-paced action with tactical decision-making and squad coordination inside competitive arena-style encounters, drawing comparisons to games like Apex Legends and Valorant while establishing its own identity through raid mechanics and objective-driven combat.
Disarm gates!
I'm coming for you!
I'm the coming storm.
Animal Use Protocol is an upcoming narrative-focused survival horror first-person game that tells its story from a deeply unusual perspective. Players take on the role of Pen, a hyper-intelligent chimpanzee attempting to escape Anchorage Station, a sprawling and nightmarish research facility built around cruel and disturbing experimentation. The horror is shaped by the fact that you are both hunted and vulnerable, forced to rely on scavenging, crafting, and stealth to survive rather than direct confrontation. Throughout the experience, players must avoid terrifying experimental monstrosities while uncovering the grim truth behind the facility's experiments.
Very good. Better than smelly hate. Better than run, run, run!
Gears of War E-Day is the next mainline entry in the Gears of War franchise and serves as a prequel that takes players back to the moment everything fell apart during Emergence Day, when the Locust Horde erupted from beneath the surface and plunged humanity into all-out war. Rather than focusing on established legends at their peak, the game retells the early story of Marcus Fenix and Dom Santiago, before they became hardened icons, capturing their first encounters with the Locust threat and the raw chaos of a world collapsing in real time. Developed by the Coalition in partnership with People Can Fly, the game is built using Unreal Engine 5, promising modern visuals and cinematic presentation while returning to the series' gritty, cover-based third-person shooter foundations. Sand Raiders of Sophie is an upcoming PvPvE open-world extraction shooter set in a post-apocalyptic desert that was once part of an industrial alternate history version of 1910. The game's defining feature is its massive walking mechanical bases, known as tramplers, which players can build, customize, and command as they traverse the ruined sands of Sophie. These towering machines function as mobile bases, transport hubs, storage vaults, and weapons platforms, forming the core of both survival and progression. Players explore the desert to loot valuable resources, weapons, and gear while engaging in combat that blends online PvP encounters with hostile AI threats. Defect is an upcoming cyberpunk squad-based immersive shooter set in a dystopian future where an authoritarian artificial intelligence known as the System controls the last surviving city of humanity. The game is built around multi-objective tactical combat, where teams pursue separate goals that can intersect, clash, or unexpectedly overlap, creating tense and dynamic encounters driven by player decisions. Players can engage with the experience through single-player, PvP, or co-op PvE modes, all set within a dense urban environment filled with rival factions, destructible spaces, and shifting objectives. Rather than relying on fixed classes, Defect emphasizes equipment and gear choices to define each player's role and playstyle, reinforcing a tactical and immersive approach where preparation, positioning, and adaptability determine success.
Department. Please help. What did they promise you? Tell the System we'll belong. Freedom, family, the System.
Marathon is a gritty multiplayer extraction shooter from Bungie that marks a new chapter for the studio known for Halo and Destiny. Set on the dangerous planet Tau Ceti 4, the game places players in the role of runners, mercenaries driven by the pursuit of wealth, reputation, and survival in hostile environments filled with both monsters and rival players. Matches blend PvE challenges with high-stakes PvP competition, where every extraction attempt carries the risk of losing valuable gear and rewards. The project has faced early community controversy and development delays, but Bungie has continued to revise its plans and work toward a restructured launch, positioning Marathon as a tense and competitive extraction experience built around risk, reward, and constant pressure. Road to Vostok is shaping up to be a brutally realistic single-player, post-apocalyptic survival first-person game set in the frozen borderlands between Finland and Russia, where every decision matters and survival is never guaranteed. Players are forced to scavenge for supplies, engage in tense firefights, carefully plan their routes, and push through a series of dangerous zones as they attempt to reach the mysterious Vostok region, a high-risk permadeath area where dying means losing everything you are carrying. In October 2025, a final demo was released on Steam as part of Steam Next Fest, serving as the last major preview before the game moves into early access. This demo is designed to showcase the core experience and give players a clear sense of the game's unforgiving survival mechanics, atmosphere, and overall direction.